let me give a quick intro about our presenter tonight. So si Mark Ong. Mark Ong has already 10 years of experience in public accounting with the largest accounting firm in the world, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and he has earned his accounting undergraduate degree from CKSC in March 2002 and obtained the CPA designation in October of the same year. So Mark is now into finance, tax, consulting for individuals and private businesses. So we are indeed lucky, guys, to have someone who is really going to share and make things much easier for us by giving us information and really how to go about the annual BIR income tax filing for us Filipinos here. So without any further delay, allow me to welcome our presenter for tonight, Mr. Mark Ong. Good evening, Mark.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Jen. Good evening, guys. Well, as just Jen has said, no, yeah, a few years experience, basically public accounting, yung firm namin, PricewaterhouseCoopers. Basically, it's an accounting firm. It's a Philippine presentation. It's a Philippine setting, I guess. Mas sikat dito yung SGV. So essentially, it's the same type of organization. It's accounting, basically. I guess we're on the same page, in terms of me wanting to come back and basically do freelancing, have more time to myself, and as well spend more time with our 2-year-old. So it's the same. I guess we're have the same field right now, in a sense, in terms of freelancing. So our topic for today essentially is about our annual income tax returns. Now, and before I start, I just want to clarify, we do have another session perhaps 2-3 weeks later, for those that have yet registered with the BIR, or para sa mga freelancers that do have a day job or used to have a day job, and now they are venturing into freelancing and want to update their status with the BIR and want to start filing with the BIR as essentially as a parang self-employed. We do have that tailored webinar, I believe, in 2 or 3 weeks time. Tonight's session, tama yun, Jen? I think it's 2 to 3 weeks from now, yung schedule.
Tama. We have that session, guys. So abangan natin yun. It will be highly targeted for self-employed and freelancers. So Mark, go ahead. Take it away.
Yes. Okay. So tonight's session, we intended that to be for those who have filed, or perhaps nag-file na, perhaps not religiously, and now andito na tayo sa April 15, which is fast approaching, and if you take out the Holy Week, now it's really just a few weeks away. So we would like to share some reminders to make it more stress-free, make you guys more prepared on what to do this April 15. So let's start, no? Okay, again, nature of my work, in terms of, it's really more taxation. So, but if you guys have any questions, again, you have my emails there in your screen. It's mark.a.n.ong@gmail.com, and we do have the Q&A session later, after a few reminders as well from Jen after the slides. Okay. Okay, learning objectives. First, income tax filing reminders. Second, common pitfalls. Ito yung madalas na I think people fell into those traps. It makes it difficult even when kayo yung napiling contestant. I used to use that word, napiling contestant by the BIR, in terms of setting an example to the public. So some pitfalls to avoid. And thirdly, I want to talk about questions that are relevant to freelancers, especially freelancers now with more web-based and client overseas, etc., etc. Okay, tax filing reminders. Again, sa exemptions, for those who do have official or day jobs, no, I think these few numbers probably familiar sa inyo, but I'm surprised some people are actually hindi updated na the exemptions. Essentially, exemptions is basically para tong expense, no? So essentially, if you are ang net income mo ay 400,000 or 200,000, you essentially can deduct an additional 50,000 bago tayo mag-start ng computation, no? This 50,000 used to be 20,000 to 25,000. About 6-7 years ago, naging 50 na to. I do hope everyone knows this, no? Na naging 50 na to, no? Before, siguro sa employers nyo, tinatanong kayo, ano ka ba? Is ka bang head of family or single ka lang? Maybe familiar kayo sa question na yun. Nowadays, there's no distinction. Every taxpayer is given a 50,000 exemption. So parang nabawasan ng 50,000 yung basis for calculation of income tax. And then if you have qualified dependents, children, you have another 25,000 for a maximum of 4 dependents. Ang importante rito, it's the same rule, nagbago lang yung amount. It used to be 8,000 about 6-7 years ago. It's now 25,000 per dependent. And ang rule dito is medyo, alam niyo naman, medyo conservative yung Philippines to start with. Medyo, so ang default dito ay yung husband ang mag-claim ng 25,000 per children. So, yun ang default, no? And if the working spouse or yung wife ang mag-claim nitong deductions, may requirement to BIR. I think for married couples, you're familiar with that na dapat may attach na parang pumapayag yung husband. Okay, at this is nothing new, nag-iba lang yung amount. Yung iba ay hindi pa nila alam na nagbago na pala. Okay? Okay, next, other income information. Sa ITR, medyo nabalitaan na siguro ng iba, naging maraming pages yung ITR natin, especially the annual ITR form. Meron silang siningit na schedule, no? It's basically schedule 11 or 12. Schedule 11 to be exact, no? Papakita ko lang yung schedule 11 para sa inyo, no? For others, nakita na nila ito. Schedule 11. Schedule 11. It concerns not just Schedule 12, no? Schedule 12. Ito, walang kinalaman to sa freelancing activities natin, pero meron silang hinihinging information, no, sa Schedule 12, page 11. No? Kung nakikita nyo sa screen, essentially, lahat pa ng na-receive yung pera, gusto nilang malaman. Ito yung medyo controversial. Gusto nilang malaman yung interest na na-receive mo sa banko, essentially. Lahat ng mga iba pang dividends na investment nyo, lahat pa ng properties sa family nyo, siguro na na-receive mo, etc., etc. Essentially, they want to know everything. For the last few years, this has been widely contested. Meron pang case sa BIR, sa Supreme Court rather, na naka-TRO siya. Kasi, for example, under description 1, no, yung interest. Siyempre, yung mga kontra rito, they're saying na meron nga tayong bank secrecy law, pero by disclosing to the BIR kung magkano yung interest na na-receive mo sa bank account, para na rin pwede mong i-gawa ng estimate kung magkano yung balance mo sa banko. So parang it's a violation of bank secrecy. Pero the other sections, parang hindi, no? They could argue na hindi naman. Like, ano bang mga real properties na meron ka at naibenta mo. So essentially, this entire schedule is really being contested. Sa mga taong kakilala ko, they were able to file this in the previous years by leaving the schedule blank. Hindi ko po alam kung ano mangyayari this time around. Wala pa sa April 15, nasa dyaryo na naman yan. Magrereklamo na naman yung mga tao. Pero as far as I know, mukhang hindi pa na-implement to ng sagaran. Meaning, I don't think pag-file nyo ng ITR ay sadya nilang finiflip yung page to page 11 to see if may na-fill upan kayo o wala. What's my advice? No, I guess for most people, I guess I would advise to still see if you can just leave it blank until you hear otherwise na may balita kayo sa news. If you want to file now, that would be the same thing that I would suggest. At mukhang hindi naman siguro na, at kung natanong kayo, I think you can raise that as an issue na yung TRO nga na about bank secrecy, wala pang clarification. So far, as far as I know, hindi pa ito pinag-iinitan itong section na to. For a lot of people, they're very scared in presenting this information kasi parang dinideclare mo na lahat eh. Parang alam na ng BIR lahat. Because that's exactly what their objective is, no? So, kagaya nung number 2, sale of real properties, para sa iba, ilalagay nila to. Pero ibig sabihin yan, for the BIR, what they're gonna see is, of course, now na pinaalam mo sa kanila, meron kang binentang property, the next ang itanong sa atin ay, saan naman ang galing yung property? No? Where did you get the money to buy the property in the first place? Kung itong property naman ay sasabihin yung namana nyo, hihingan naman kayo ng estate tax documents. Nagbayad ba ng karapat-dapat na o tamang estate tax yung parents nyo, no? or grandparents, no? So ito yung plan essentially, no? Again, I said right now it's a gray area. Maybe election time, maybe they're more sensitive to public complaints. I don't know after 2016 if we can still leave the schedule blank. But again, I want to talk about this schedule kasi maraming kina-annoyed dito sa section na. Okay. So yun ang other information, no? Interest, gains, essentially lahat. Gusto nila. Dun sa last bullet point, receipts exempt from income tax. Para sa mga nagtatanong sa akin, Mark, well, exempt naman sa income tax yan eh. So ilalagay ko na rin. There's no problem. For some, kinakabahan pa rin kasi baka itanong sa kanila, saan naman nanggaling tong receipts in the first place? Saan yung perang pinanggamit mo dyan? No? So, just something to watch out for. Hopefully, it's status quo pa rin at you can leave it blank. Okay, for some freelancers na medyo may corporate clients, familiar kayo lalo na kung mas malaki ang mga customers nyo, may binabawasan sa binabayaran sa inyo. Whether it's 5, 10, 2, or 15%. Ang tawag dyan, withholding tax. Essentially, if you charge your corporate client, let's say 50,000, and they've withheld, let's say 10,000 or 5,000 from that amount, they're supposed to give you a form, no, to show na ito yung proof na binawasan kayo ng amount at yung amount na remit na nila to the BIR. So again, for that applies to people who are dealing with large corporate clients. So baka once in a while nangyari to sa inyo, no? Essentially, yung form ay proof of payment yun na ng tax. So, example again, if you after all the computations, for example, at ang net tax na babayaran nyo, let's say, is 12,000 or 45,000, pwede nyo pang bawasan kung ano man yung amount na nakalagay dito sa Form 2317. No? So if it's 45,000 and ang amount withheld by your customer ay 5,000, 40,000 na lang yung babayaran nyo. And malinaw naman nakalagay ito sa ITR na pwede nyong bawasan yan. No? So this is again another way of what the BIR does. So when you're dealing with corporate clients, ito yung parang syempre malaki ang budgets ng mga corporate clients, no? Malaki ang marketing budget nila, IT budget. It's something you guys need to be aware na what it means, no? When they withhold an amount from you, ito yung amount na they submit to the BIR. So essentially, pag binawasan kanila ng 10% or 15%, ipapaalam nila sa BIR, at ang gagawin lang ng BIR, i-backtrack nila yung 10%. So kapag, let's say, meron kayong client na PLDT, meron kayong magandang project with PLDT, you got paid, let's say, 200,000, binawasan kayo ng 20,000, essentially, the BIR is informed by PLDT na so-and-so had a contract with us, we paid them 200,000, and eto ng 20,000 in advance na ng PLDT on your behalf, binigay niya yung 20,000 to the BIR. No? So again, for FYI lang, so essentially the BIR is expecting you to include the 200,000 in your ITR. Yun yung mga, for some na getting into trouble is they don't even want to report that. No? You're just setting yourself for trouble. No? In the first way, of course, we have to report all our sources of income, but people get into trouble by even attempting to exclude yung mga revenues nila from corporate clients, lalo na yung mga large corporations, kasi they do report that to the BIR. Okay? Next, moving on, deduction. May dalawang klaseng deduction na binibigyan tayo ng choice ng BIR. First is itemized. No? Itemized meaning talagang detailed expense, every invoice, tinatago nyo yung mga invoice, whether invoice to ng gasolina, etc. Talagang meron kayong support dapat sa lahat ng expenses nyo na nilalagay nyo sa ITR. Ito yung kagandahan ng freelancing, compared sa kung compensation income ka lang, employee lang tayo, ang paminsan unfair na whatever your salary is, yun na yung pinagbabasihan ng tax. Of course, after removing yung SSS contribution, PhilHealth, pati na rin yung napag-usapan natin kanina na 50,000 and then yung 25,000 kung meron tayong dependent or anak. No? Pero yun lang ang pwedeng bawasan kung employee tayo. Pero kung freelancer ka, self-employed, essentially it's a business, pwede ka pang magbawas ng expenses. No? Yun yung kagandahan ng, essentially isa kang entrepreneur basically. So you can claim expenses. Ang official statement ng BIR, reasonable expenses. No? So as long as it's reasonable, may support ka dun sa expenses, i-itemize mo yan. So kailangan ilista mo sa ITR ano ba itong mga expenses mo. Okay? Yun yung classic case, simple lang yan. Kaya yung mga tao nagtatago ng invoice, yung iba humihingi pa ng invoice, siguro nakarinig na kayo ng ganun. The second option is yung tinatawag na OST. Ito yung parang, essentially, parang ito na yung olive branch ng BIR para sa mga taxpayer. Parang ito na yung gift nila para sa atin. For as long as 40% lang ang expenses natin, you may decide to choose OSD. Now, 40% of gross revenues, meaning kapag ang lahat ng kinita nyo ay, let's say, 500,000 for the year or 700,000, kung willing naman kayo to claim as deduction yung 40% lang ng amount. So, again, kapag, let's say, 1 million ang revenues nyo, kung payag naman kayo na 400,000 lang ang expenses na pwede nyo i-claim or i-awas sa kinita nyo, payag na you can choose optional standard deduction. Okay? Essentially, 40%, hindi na nila aalamin kung ano ba tong 40% na to. Okay? So, siguro, meron kang mga expenses na wala kang hindi mo na natagong resibo, etc., etc. Parang meron ka ng option dito na 40%. This is the BIR's parang ano na nila to, peace offering para sa taxpayer. 40%, yung iba na manggastos sa nature of business nyo, syempre marami talaga ayaw nila ng 40% lang kasi baka naman yung expenses nyo ay napakaliit ng margin ng business nyo. So, essentially, kung 1 million ang revenues nyo, actually, mga 20% lang ang markup nyo. So, it's not applicable to everyone. But I'd like to let you know na there's this option. And for most people, I suppose tonight na nagpa-file na, I do hope na alam niyo na itong option na to. Hindi to first time nyo narinig to. Okay, third, yun yung tanong ng marami. Kailangan ba ng CPA, ng auditor, pag nag-file ng ITR? Well, ang sagot ko dyan, oo, kailangan kasi hindi pa nila binago ang rule. Mababa pa rin yung threshold ng revenue. Essentially, lahat tayo required eh. Pero, kapag pinili nyo yung OSD, yung optional standard deduction, pwedeng hindi na kayo mag-file ng report ng CPA. So, makakatipid pa kayo. Ibibigay nyo ng ITR with mga attachments. For example, balik tayo sa kanina, kapag let's say kayo yung wife, no? At sa ITR nyo, kayo ang magki-claim ng 25,000 for the dependents, no? Kasama sa attachment dun yung parang pagpayag ng husband nyo. Okay? So, pero pag hindi kayo itemized deduction at optional standard deduction kayo, pag optional, payag na yung BIR na wala ng CPA report na isasama sa ITR. Kasi nga, siguro, from the point of view BIR, hindi naman napakalaki ng expenses na kiniklaim nyo. 40% lang naman. No? So, again, I consider that parang ano na to, parang advantages or mga na binibigay sa taxpayer, mga options na binibigay sa atin. Okay, next, moving on. I said common pitfalls. Yung mga dapat iwasan, no? Kasi maraming businesses, kahit small businesses, mga dental clinics, etc., maliit na retail stores. Ito yung usually na mga they essentially put themselves in a difficult spot, no? Lalo na kung sila ay na exam. Consistency, yung trend of revenues and expenses, no? Obviously, me being a CPA, no, I advise people to essentially pay the right taxes, no. Pero paminsan may nagtatanong na, well, can I do this, can I do that? Ito yung mga suggestions ko sa nila. Essentially, you have to look at yung trend, no. Kumbaga, sometimes it's common sense, no. This year, napakalaki ng revenues mo, parang pressured ka or may nag-iisip na, well, kailangan mag-isip ako ng mga expenses to offset that, no. Well, of course, dapat yung expenses yung tamang expenses. Pero theoretically speaking, pag napaka-kakaiba naman yung expenses nyo, all of a sudden, meron kayong siningit dyan na kung ano-ano amount, you just, again, putting yourselves in a difficult spot kung sakasakali. No? Kasi you have to think about yung trend din. Kasi I think it's something that they look at, lalo na they're starting to computerize everything. Magkakaroon na sila ng statistics, history. Sabi nga nila, ang BIR meron ng statistic ng mga average revenues ng lahat ng mga professionals, whether it's doctors, lawyers. So, nalalaman na nila kung ano yung reasonable range ng mga professionals. No? For freelancers in very modern categories like online work, no? Siguro wala pa silang data or data analytics for that, no? But for some, especially in more popular industries, they are starting to compile these statistics, so they can tell if there are some outliers, no? Like may mga nag-file ng napakababang revenues or napakalaking expenses compared to revenues based sa nature ng trabaho nyo. So, ano yung ibig kong sabihin, no? Example lang, kung dentist ka, they would understand na malaki ang expenses ng isang dentista dahil sa napakamahal ng mga equipment, no? Yung dental chair, lahat ng mga equipment ng dentist, no? Pero kung ano naman, if they compare that, let's say, to a lawyer, unless may office ka, pero they would not expect you to have very high expenses. Parang gano'n, no? Kasi ikaw lang yung puhunan, eh, no? Wala ka namang napakalaking equipment na dapat bilhin. No? So, yun yung parang consistency na dapat pag-isipan nyo. No? When you claiming expenses, ano ba ang reasonable expenses at ano ba ang amount na nire-report nyo? No? Lalo na for freelancers, essentially, medyo may nagtanong sa akin, well, essentially, I'm a freelancer, really, wala namang ano eh. Really, it's hard for anyone to know how much I'm really making. Again, of course, I would, my default answer is for you to file the right amounts. But again, personally, from the point of view ng taxpayer, kayo rin naman magde-decide kung ano talagang naka-declare. Think about yung consistency and yung ratio at yung reasonableness. No? Okay. Reconcile yung numbers. Second point, nagpa-file kayo ng percentage tax returns or VAT returns every month. Making sure na nagbabangga yung mga numero. No? Pag in-adapt lahat ng mga percentage tax returns nyo, nagbabangga pa yung revenue. Dapat nagbabangga yan kasi yung iba hindi nagtutugma eh. Problemado yun kasi ikaw rin na nag-file ng percentage tax eh. Sa pangalan mo rin yun. Pagdating sa income tax, siyempre dapat nagtutugma yung numero. I'm surprised pero may mga taong na hindi pa nagtutugma yung dalawa. No? Ang percentage tax, I suppose most of you who do file nagpa-file kayo ng percentage tax, you file all your revenues every month. So when you add it all up, it has to agree to your income tax revenue figure. Quarterly income tax, again, dapat na naka-reconcile yan. No? Kung ano man ang na-declare niyo before, nakasama yan sa annual income tax niyo. Official receipts, again, dapat nagre-reconcile yan. No? For free, may mga nagtatanong, well, paano yun? Hindi naghumingi ng resibo sa akin. Well, it doesn't mean na kapag walang humingi ng resibo sa inyo ay hindi nyo na pwedeng i-declare yun as income. You can still declare it. Of course, if you declare it, that's best, no? Pero wag nyo isipin na ay wala kasi akong wala kasi akong nailagay sa resibo. Okay lang naman. For as long as alam nyo yung differences kung bakit gano'n, no? Ma-explain nyo, naiintindihan nyo na yung siguro, o konti lang na issue yung lalo na pag kliyente nyo overseas, hindi naman humingi, okay lang as long as reconciled yan. Alam nyo yung bakit ito yung numbers nyo na i-declare nyo sa ITR nyo. Na malamang may discrepancy sa official receipt. At kung sakali naman na natanong kayo, I don't think that's an issue. Kung ang kliyente nyo naman ay overseas at hindi naman sila humingi, wala namang problema yun. Actually, mas problema yun sa kliyente nyo kapag taga rito siya at claim niya as expense on his side, on her side, at hindi siya humingi ng resibo sa inyo. I think ang problema nasa kanya, hindi sa inyo. Okay? Ang resibo naman is really to give it to your customers kasi i-claim nila as expense. So, dapat nasa kanila na yung bola nasa court nila. Pag hindi sila humingi, it's their problem. But it doesn't mean na if you don't issue it, hindi nyo pwedeng ilagay sa ITR. Hindi naman ganun. So, you just have to make sure everything reconciles. Monthly percentage tax returns, quarterly, mabuting tingnan nyo na, balikan nyo yung mga numero nyo ngayon para alam nyo na yung total numbers na ilalagay nyo sa ITR. Something you can start now, I would suppose, para hindi kayo mahirapan. For people who, again, who are choosing OFD, siguro mas madali ang buhay kasi lahat ng expenses wala na eh. I mean, times 40% lang eh. So, kung 300,000 ang revenues, times 40%, 120,000 na expense. Stop. Tapos na. Wala nang, hindi mo nahalong yung mga resibo, etc. etc. Okay, dito na tayo sa last part natin. And then after that, of course, I'll pass it on to Jen, and then we'll have a Q&A later. Common questions. Dollar transactions. For most freelancers, nauuso na yan. Dollar transactions. Paano i-translate sa peso? You can just translate it based on an average rate, whether it's the rate for the day, or even just a weekly rate. Hindi naman tayo nagre-record every single day. And for most freelancers, I don't think ganun karaming transaction nyo. Siguro mga 1 transaction a day, 2 transactions a day. So hindi naman ganun kadami yan. No? So there's no specific rule kung anong dapat exchange rate ang gamitin nyo. Bank rate ba yan? Bangko Central rate? As long as it's you got that rate from a popular website, from a BSP or bank website, okay na yun. At the end of the day, hindi naman ganun kalaki ang magiging difference niyan. Kung nagkamali man kayo ng piso or 50 cents, hindi naman sobrang laki ng impact sa total number. So, walang specific rule dito kung ano dapat. Siguro makikita nyo sa BIR website, pero I don't think they would question you kung anong rate ang ginamit nyo for the month of January, anong rate February, ano yung rate March, hindi po ganun. Okay. Expenses. For freelancers, again, personal assets, marami yan, no? Paminsan, pangalan sa common expenses yan sa bahay natin. Sorry, andito lang yung baby ko. Medyo gustong sumali. Okay, personal expenses, no? So, some freelancers have this question na parang wala akong maisip na expenses, hindi ganun karami. Kasi sa bahay lang ako eh. Pero rin ginamit na items around your house na you can claim it as expense. No, essentially, lahat ng nakalista rito, pwedeng i-claim as expenses. Siyempre, yung tamang share nyo, as long as reasonable naman, you can claim it as an expense. Lalo na yung rent. Kung meron naman talaga yung sarili yung lugar sa bahay, you can come up with a rate, prorata nyo yung rent. Assuming umuupa kayo, para sa opisina nyo, pwede yun. That can add up to your expenses para you can claim it para mabawasan yung ating tax payable. Local taxes, pwedeng some people forget, no? Pero yung local tax nyo, yung binayaran nyo sa barangay, sa city hall, pwede siyang expenses dun sa income tax. Pwede siya. I'm very sure about that, no? Pwede siyang bawasan as expense. So yung mga binayaran nyo for annual permits sa city hall, sa barangay, pwede. You can claim that as an expense. And again, if you've considered the OSD option, kung sa mga hindi OSD ang ITR nila, nung final nyo sa first quarter, hindi na pwede kayo magbago. Pag first quarter nag-file kayo at inilagay nyo yung itemized deduction, dapat kung tax return, dapat itemized din ang expenses nyo. Pero kung actually nagustuhan nyo pala yung OSD, you can do that next year. Make sure sa first quarter next year, first quarter of 2016, yun ang ilagay nyong option para every quarter and going forward, OSD na lang kayo times 40%. Pag times 40%, mas simple ang paperworks.
Papa, try it.
Okay. Online filing. Kung gusto niyo mag-online file, walang reklamo ang BIR dyan. They would welcome that. Pero hindi totoo na bawal lang manual filing. That's not true, no? So, pwede tayo mag-manual file, no? Pero ito yung reminder ko sa inyo. If you hire a CPA to file the tax for you, isa yan sa mga criteria na would force you to file online. Once meron kayong representative, online filing na kayo. Pero kung kayo lang, at kayo rin lang ang pipirma ng ITR, manual filing pwede pa rin. No? I'm not aware na binago nila yung rule. For all I know, as of today, pwede pa rin ang manual filing. Unless you've hired a CPA to sign your paperwork for you, automatic disqualified ka na sa manual filing. Punta ka na sa e-filing. Okay, in-add ko lang itong slide na to again just to emphasize para makita nyo yung difference itong optional tax deduction. Again, just in case meron sa audience today na either hindi pa sila familiar dito sa option na to, ito yung difference, no? How do you calculate that? Pag detailed deduction kayo or itemized deduction, you have to accumulate every invoice ng lahat ng mga expenses mo. Pero pag 40% optional deduction, ayan, simple calculation. No, you don't need to itemize. You don't even need to keep those invoices actually. Kasi 40% times 40 ka lang eh. So actually, for some, siguro ang actual expenses nyo hindi pa umabot ng 40%. Siguro nasa 30% pa lang kayo. Para sa iba, baka 10% lang talaga yung na-account yung expenses kasi home-based ka naman. Pero, like I said, kung iisipin mo, yung mga ginagamit mong mga items sa bahay nyo, kuryente, yung office nyo sa bahay, etc., etc., kung nahihirapan kayong i-calculate yan, baka doon na rin kayo dito sa 40%. Kasi baka pasok na ron. accounted na rin kahit paano. So again, maybe this is more for next year for some people, no, to think about whether that's more advantageous for you, for some of you, or perhaps for most freelancers. I think good deal na yung 40%. Baka deal na. No? For some, my most common example is pag dentista, ayaw nila yung 40% kasi ang laki ng investment nila sa dental clinic nila, dental chairs. They really don't like that kasi ang expenses nila is way beyond 40% ng revenues nila. So medyo low margin ng konti. No? For some, na home base, baka this is okay. So, that's essentially some simple reminders. I guess before our Q&A, I'll hand it back to Jen.
Okay. Salamat, Mark. Salamat. And mukhang maraming tanong pa, Mark, na dapat i-reveal. Malalim-lalim pala tong topic na to. So there. So guys, now we will be having a Q&A later on. What we're currently doing is we're collating yung mga questions na binigay nyo sa amin through the chat box. So while doing that, let me just give you a quick run-through about horsepower habang kinokolate pa information. Okay? So by the way, no, while waiting for the Q&A session, if you have other inquiries or concern, i-chat nyo na po sa ating chat box so that we will be able to ask Mark. So if, let's say you would like to use your microphone to ask questions, then we will be more than happy to unmute you, okay? So right now I'm putting all the hands, raise your hands down. So if you would like to be unmuted, kindly press the raise your hand button and we will be unmuting your mic shortly, okay? So you can do that, guys, now. Okay. So almost there, we're collating the... So any other questions, guys, so far? Okay, Althea. Sige, we will unmute you shortly. Okay, any other guys there who would like to ask questions? So far, Mark, we have a couple of questions already na naka-line up na, no? We just want to make sure na malagay natin sila in proper sequence. Okay. So while we're waiting for that, guys, I just like to again give you a quick run through on what horsepower is, especially for those of you who are joining this Power Talk series for the first time. So again, I have a question. I want to know if any of you has been part of any company that provides benefits and privileges. Yung mga naging employee na in the past, okay? If you are, kindly press the raise your hand button so that we can see. Okay, Alexa, Althea. Okay, Jose, Carl. Marami rin. Okay, great. So, ito yung things na dapat talaga na, alam mo yun, if for me, for example, I was part of a BPO company in the past, and of course, ito yung mga nami-miss ko, no, while doing freelancing, because of course, it is us now who should be providing this to ourselves. Ang mga common yan is ito, yung SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig, and the challenge with going through with these things is, of course, we really need to be the one to process all of these memberships, no? Tayo yung magbabayad, tayo yung pipila, tayo yung almost every aspect of HR tayo gagawa since self-employed na nga tayo. And another key feature is, of course, yung healthcare. As an employee, you always get that. But as a self-employed or entrepreneur, this is more of a case-to-case basis if ever you want to have it or not. So in horsepower, we believe that no one should be without access to benefits and privileges, especially the self-employed, because alam naman natin, it's always a common saying that buti pa ang employed may benefits. So we are trying to address that notion that it doesn't matter whether you're employed or self-employed, you will have options now, even the self-employed itself. Because frankly, if you, let's say, just for healthcare alone, if you're going to go direct to the healthcare providers, yung mga HMOs, in most cases, you really have to pay a lot to get covered, you know, to feel exactly what a typical HMO is, no? But with horsepower, we're really trying our best to come up with membership packages that would fit your budget and your needs, of course. And also, as mentioned earlier, by joining this webinar, most of you, or in fact all of you, are now part of the Horsepower Business Lite account. So these are just some of the things that you can do, no? Online government posting for payments for SS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig, online bills payment, and of course, if you have some questions about legal and taxation, we can help and support you with that. Just these are just for question and answer. Again, if you really need support for your actual needs, for example, filing like this, then of course we go to certified individuals like Mark to really further help you guys with this one. So for healthcare insurance coverage, ayan, iba-iba yung mga ino-offer namin depending on your package. So unlike before that, in most cases, it's always 100,000, but of course, it's also expensive. So now there are some packages that has lower limits, but of course, it will fit your budget as well. So especially kung healthy ka naman, di ba? So yung mga ganun. And this is what the inside of the horsepower dashboard looks like. So para lang siya talagang control panel mo where you can avail and see all of the inclusions of your membership. And I just like to add that for those who would be signing up for horsepower, just use the community code MARK and we'll let you have this 1 year free website hosting. And we're actually extending this. Instead of February 29, it's already until the end of March. So that everyone can actually avail of this. Okay, so just use the community code at the bottom of your sign-up form. So on to the Q&A portion na tayo, no? So hindi natin patatagalin. So Mark, ready na ba tayo? Ready to receive the questions from our mga audience? Okay, let's see here. Mark, are you still there? Wait lang natin si Mark, no? Of course, we will try to unmute you guys who raise your hands. Althea, I'll start with you. Okay, we'll just wait for Mark to join us right now. Okay, let me unmute you now, Althea.
Hi guys.
Hi, Thea. Good evening.
Maingay ba?
Ayun. Hindi naman, tama lang. So you have a question. I know you have a question. We'll just wait for Mark. Uy, na-disconnect si Mark. Oo. Pero, yeah, para pag pasok ni Mahel.
Yeah, kasi an agency on Upwork. So, most of the time, when the client pays me, hindi naman sa akin lahat yung pera. So, most of the time, it's just like 10 to 30% yung overall. And that's one of the things that I'm worried about. Because if I declare lahat nung pumasok na pera in, let's say, my bank account, that's a big amount of money, but it's not all mine. So I wanted to know what pwede ko bang ilagay lang doon if they ask na kung nagbigay ba ako ng resibo to the people I sent the money to, So, yun. And I don't have that. I never thought that I needed to issue a receipt to someone else.
Yeah, it's actually a valid concern, no? Kasi hindi naman talaga natin nakukuha lahat, di ba? So, wait natin si Mark. Mark? Okay, Mark, are you
Sorry,
there?
I may need to have. Yes,
Go ahead,
yes.
Mark.
Yes, can I have the question? Can I have the question again?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Ano ba yun? I handle a team of people, and we normally do projects as one. And then, pag binabayaran ako ng client, sa akin na napupunta. So, and then I send their part of the payment. So, anong pwede kong gawin doon? Kasi hindi naman ako nag-issue ng resibo dun sa mga ka-team member ko. And I'm thinking, paano kung i-declare ko siya sa BIR, tapos mataksan ako ng malaki, eh hindi naman lahat yun sa akin.
Okay. If I got this right, no, you receive payment, no, as on behalf of your team, no, at pinapasa mo rin sa kanila. But yung kliyente niyo ba humihingi ng resibo sa iyo or wala rin namang
Hindi.
hinihingi? Hindi naman. Okay.
Wala. Kasi sa Upwork naman.
Okay, again, ito yung tinatawag natin online, no? So, it's an online work. Technically speaking, hypothetically speaking, in the first place, kung magkano talaga na-receive mo individually or as a team, no? You don't need to mention, ito yung share ko, less yung para sa iba. I guess it's, you declare your amount. They could say, well, where's your receipt, no? Kasi sakaling you've been chosen to numbers mo, where I guess you can show them na ito naman talaga, no? So it's an arrangement. You just got the money and then pass it on, no? So I don't see how they would make life difficult, no? Kasi unless your transactions have become so huge and so big, they might become more stringent, no? Baka sabihin nila, ito parang employer-employee relationship na to. Essentially, you're the employer. But if we're talking about an amounts na hindi pa naman lumalagpas sa high seven figures, I don't think they would they would be such strict, no, that they would interpret it very difficult and make life hard for you.
Okay. Okay, great. Ano pala, follow-up question about, about yung exchange rate. Kasi binanggit mo kayo na we can use yung exchange rate from sa bangko or what. Kasi I just want to point out na yung exchange rate na nakikita namin from BDO or ano, iba siya sa exchange rate na natatanggap namin from Upwork. Is it okay if ginamit namin yung exchange rate na nakuha namin from Upwork? Do we need to defend that or what? Or what if sinabi ni BIR, saan mo ito nakuha, gano'n?
Hindi. Of course, sa Upwork, that's the amount that you get. That's their exchange rate. At the end of the day, pass it on to you using their rate. So that would be the most accurate kasi I think lalo na kung yung account mo is peso na, pagpunta rito automatic peso na siya, you just use whatever peso amount you got, yun na yung nakalagay sa tax returns mo.
Right, okay, sige.
So kasi yun na rin yun na-translate na nga yun para sa iyo.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
But
Thank you, Mark.
by the way, that still applies, no? Of course, for some people, hindi mo naman pinapa-transfer from Upwork every time you get a project, no? Some people try to accumulate it, no? Para whether there's bank charges, etc., etc. So you could get to a point na meron ka pang kinita na hindi pa naibibigay sa iyo o hindi mo pa na-receive in peso. So you may still have some amounts that you have to convert dun sa ITR mo. Maybe a smaller amount.
Okay, thank you, Thea, for your question. No, if you have again questions, alam mo, Thea, raise your hands ka lang uli. So for the meantime, any other out there who would like to ask questions, we can unmute you and ask the questions directly to Mark. So just press your raise your hand button right now para ma-unmute namin kayo. Meron ba? Okay, mukhang wala pa. Ayun, meron. Si Ana Teresa Bonalba. Ana, I'll unmute you right now. Evening, Ana.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Okay,
Hello?
go ahead. Ask your question.
Ayun. Magkano po ang fee for a typical CPA? In case na gusto naman is yung itemized.
Can I get what's the normal fee for a CPA? Is it in ban?
Yes, for the services. In case na, pag po kasi yung itemized, di ba, kailangan ng CPA?
Yes. Wala akong, it can be all over the place eh. Kasi they would have to know yung, kung ako, assuming ako ang tinanong, I would first want to know yung volume ng transaction nung nagtanong, no? So, give you an example. Siyempre, if you are just a freelancing professional with probably just less than 50 projects a year or less than 100 projects, I would assume hindi ganun kahirap i-add up lahat yun, no? And then yung expenses mo, most likely, based sa nature ng trabaho, hindi ganun karami, no? Compare that to a store, no, na isang tindahan sa mall na talagang there will be thousands of transactions when you add it up throughout the year. So napakalaki ng range, but I'm sure minimum amount probably pag ITR, I assume at least 3 to 5, especially for more junior mas baguhang mga CPA. I think you can even be lucky and find someone willing to do it for less than 5, probably. Sa tingin ko, there's still people out there who can offer that price. It all depends sa sino makakausap nyo at siyempre gaano ka rin kahirap yung sarili nyong record keeping na madali nyong maibibigay sa accountant para they can classify the expenses in less time. So,
Okay.
I guess there's a minimum amount. No one's gonna do it kahit sabihin, kasi the form is the form, no? Yung BIR form is 10 to 12 pages. Your numbers may be mababa lang ang transaction mo, pero the form still has to be filled up. So may fix na trabaho para doon. Yun ang masishare ko. So for some na para sa iba na parang feeling nyo bakit ganun ang fee, maybe that I explained that kasi may fixed amount of work regardless kung ano yung mga amounts ng mga transaction nyo.
Okay, so ano pong kailangan namin i-present? Kailangan ba namin yung, kasi sa Upwork, di ba meron yung certificate of earnings? Actually, yun lang talaga yung meron ako as proof kung ano yung kinikita ko. Yun lang.
Okay. In your case, I assume, have you filed quarterly ITR before?
Not as a
Kapag-file ka ba?
freelancer. Pa po natatry as a freelancer. I did
Meron ka
that.
bang day job?
I used to have a day job. Call center agent po ako dati. So meron akong paid. Pero since nag-freelance ako, I honestly haven't paid as a freelance.
Okay. Yung last job mo ba, did it stop in calendar year 2015?
No.
Matagal na. Okay. I think in your case, parang essentially maybe there's a gap of a year or two, no, na nawalan ng record yung BIR. Wala silang record of you. Siguro before you were working, nagre-remit yung employer mo ng share mo ng tax. Let's say it was 2013 or 2012. Then obviously, when you moved to freelancing, if I was BIR, there was a gap of a year or two na wala silang nare-receive na tax from you, no, as an individual. Now that gusto mo nang bumalik at you want to file it now, I guess there's nothing wala namang bawal dun. Why would they decline your filing, no? You could file it, but I just want to point out, of course, when you file it, there's of course theoretically that they could look into it and ask bakit may gap, no? Parang what happened in the years between. And then if you ask me, they could essentially tell you, oh, well, hindi ka nag-file ng quarterly ITR before, so meaning they could penalize you for that as well. I just want to let you know that could happen. Hopefully that won't be a reason to discourage you from filing. But yun lang ang ano. But if you want to file, of course, you can file your annual ITR. Wala kang na-file na quarter ITR in previous 3 months. But I don't think that would be, if you're filing manually, that won't be a problem. They could conceivably look into your records, pero you can file it based on the number that you have, based on certificate of earnings from Upwork. That could be as simple as that. And if you decide to choose yung optional standard, since you haven't really filed any quarterly ITR before, so wala ka naman na-select na option ng first quarter kasi wala ka namang na-file na ganung form, you can do it now and you may choose to opt for 40% and mas mabilis yung ITR mo kasi you can skip all those lines kasi wala ka ng itemized expenses.
Okay po. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anna, for asking that question. I know, no, medyo sensitive topic talaga yun, Mark. Yung mga ganun.
Jen, I think, Jen, if I may add, no, kasi, well, anyway, I know this session is recorded, no, so, but I think I can phrase my what I'm saying right now in a more appropriate way. Essentially, if someone were to ask me, well, why would I have to pay? No one knows, no, because I'm doing this online. I'm not even, like, if I'm an online seller, well, technically, nasa OLX ako, nasa etc. So nakikita ako, kilala rin akong online sellers. So, pero if someone asks me, essentially, it's through Upwork, 99.ph, whatever. So, theoretically speaking, malalaman ba ng BIR kung magkano ba talaga? Would BIR even know I exist? Well, if you ask me that question, well, my answer, I probably wouldn't know. Pero I think in our previous session now, some may have attended the February 4 session back at the Union Bank Plaza. What I did mention is, I think what BIR is doing is they're making it life more difficult for people who don't have tax records, whether it's purchasing a car, getting a mortgage, having a loan with the bank, etc., etc. They're starting to make life difficult for us. Whether it's mga real estate transaction, kung wala ka kasing tax record, pahihirapan ka eh. So that's something for you guys to think about. Theoretically, most parang honesty, parang self, na nga to eh, parang nagiging honest na tayo for filing, no? But I just want people to know that there's some things to consider sometimes kasi you may get to a point na ay, wala akong records whatsoever, mahirap parang ganon. So something for you guys to think about. For some that are starting, if you were to do, say, nakapag-freelance ka na for 6 months last year or 4 months last year, at hindi naman kalakihan yung naumpisahan mong kita last year, I don't see a tremendous issue kapag you would approach the BIR and say you are now starting as a freelancer. So you're starting fresh as a freelancer. They may ask you kung kailan ka nag-start. If you told them, well, I've started one or two projects a few months, and they may, I don't think that they would say, magkano yung kinita mo the last 2 months or the last 3 months bago ka lumapit sa amin. I don't think they would do that kasi parang it's like someone who bakes in their kitchen, parang home bakery lang. Some people tried your stuff during Christmas na nagustuhan nila, and now you want to really start it as a business. Hindi naman sila ganun ka bad trip na gusto nila malaman. Or technically, lumapit ka sa amin, so may binenta ka nung nakarang Christmas, so in violation ka na. Hindi naman sila ganun. So, what I'm trying to say is, you could, for simplicity's sake, go to the BIR and parang file as, parang back to square one ka. You're filing as a professional. You want to start. So parang you're starting fresh. You may have employment records, getting employment salary before na binabawasan ng employer niyo before. And then nag-freelance ka at tumigil yung records ng BIR, hindi nakaka-receive. I don't think it's that problematic to approach them and have your status change officially na hindi ka na employee, ano ka na, professional ka na. So that's a topic 3 weeks from now. I think meron tayong webinar about that. No? So
tama.
Wala namang kaso na you're starting and telling them na now I'm a freelancer. So that also explains why wala akong records with BIR the last 24 months or 18 months kasi I stopped employment and now I'm telling the BIR na I'm now starting as a freelancer. No? So wala namang ano diyan. Wala namang kaso yan. Okay?
Okay. So, ayun, no? I think that's really the best option is to register as a professional, which we will have a webinar in a week or 2 from now. So, probably, Anna, that's something that you would like to attend din, no? Para makita mo rin yung process on really how to become a professional, a self-employed, na talaga nagbabayad din. And siguro from there, all the accounts that you have will be properly documented na. So, there. So, you watch out for that and we'll post kung kailan siya and how to register for it. Again, it's also a webinar series that you can join. Okay. So, any other questions, guys? Gustong mag-unmute ng kanilang mic? Okay. Meron ba? Raise your hands. Wala. Okay, Mark, we have now yung mga sa questions natin from the chat box. So, ito yung unang tanong. Are health supplements considered expenses? I guess yung work from home siya eh. So, bumibili siya ng mga health supplements.
Ang sagot ko riyan would be no. Kasi, hindi siya. Wala siya sa listahan kasi.
Okay. So, another question. How about travel tax?
Ano ibig sabihin ng travel tax?
Wala masyadong detail dito. But I guess whenever they try to travel abroad or something.
Ang travel expenses naman, kapag related yun sa ginagawa nyo, pwede. No? As I mentioned earlier, ito nga dito nga unfair eh. If you are an employee, nagko-commute ka sa work, papuntang work, no? Hindi mo naman pwedeng ibawas yun as expense mo eh. Pero as a freelancer, as a professional, you go to meet your clients, or you travel to procure something or to listen to some symposium or seminar na related sa ginagawa mo, expenses lahat yun na pwede mong i-claim na expenses sa business mo. So, travel included.
Okay. Meron tayong gustong mag-unmute, si Harold. Harold, I'll try to unmute you now. Okay, Harold, good evening.
Good evening. Hello, everybody. Hello, Mark. Hello, Jen. Ririnig ba ako?
Okay, you're clear.
Yes,
Go ahead.
Okay. Yung question ko is actually 2 questions and I like to ask Mr. Mark na medyo tulungan akong linisin yung question ko kasi actually this is not my own question but what I see for my father because he have a small business but I think he have a problem with the proper documentation and everything do sa mga regarding sa mga tax. So ito yung nakita ko sa father ko na nagkaroon siya ng malaking problema kasi he know the operation of the business then he just started and nag-start na siya mag-business then nag-stay ito for at least 15 years. Then, up to now, wala siyang BIR. So, I think for 2 years time, 2 to 3 years, I'm planning to take over the business and gusto kong ayusin lahat. So, actually, para sa akin, and I think malaki yung magiging problema ko pag inayos ko sa mga taxation kasi going back to his OR, nakita ko yung mga resibo ng father ko. Actually, most of them has a huge amount of money na galing sa customer niya kasi yung mga customer niya is mga factories, mga malalaking kumpanya. So, malalaki yung project na ginagawa ng father ko. So, yung question ko kaya is how I can catch up with the problem that I'm going to face later on for those kind of things. For 15 years, I believe hindi siya nag-tax. I think 12 or 15 years. I think so. Ganun na katagal. So, I think magiging malaking problema siya. Pero paano kaya mapapabilis yung proseso? That's my first question.
Ibabalik ko lang, no? Clarify ko lang. No? Well, I guess I cannot have an accurate response, no? Kasi marami pa siguro akong dapat itanong siguro offline, no? Sa iyo, Harold. But siguro and I think I can share this advice, no? This is perfectly legal, no? What you could do is to try to i-box in a corner mo na yung technically mga problems ng business ng father mo from a BIR perspective. What do I mean by that? If it's a naka-corporation ba yan? Itong business nyo, corporation ba yan? O sole proprietor?
Yes, sole proprietor.
Oh, sole proprietor. Okay. So,
like it's something like a talyer setup. It's like a machine shop, so you have a lot of project from the machines itself because he producing some parts of the machine. So parang talyer siya.
Okay. Kasi ano nga siya eh, like I said, sole proprietor siya. So what you could do is essentially start the business under your name, no? So again, this is just a simple suggestion. You could do a transaction legally speaking na parang pinasa yung business sa'yo. So pinasa yung business sa'yo, parang pinasa niya yung trade, yung profession, yung trade niya na parang ibebenta niya sa'yo, di ba? Pwede naman niya ibenta sa'yo, tapos ikaw na, you start fresh. So sa records ng BIR, or you start in
the name pag gano'n yung ginawa ko, the name of the business.
It's a sole proprietorship eh, 'di ba? Kasi so yung sole proprietor ka, so sa pananaw ng BIR kasi ang taxpayer is yung pangalan ng papa mo. Siya ang taxpayer. May pangalan man yung talyer nyo, maring may pangalan yan, pero ang taxpayer is your father. Okay? So kasi pag sole proprietor, hindi distinguished yung ano eh. Ang tax liability na doon sa may-ari, wala doon sa business. Okay? So he could conceivably sell the business to you, and then you're now the new owner, ika nga. So whatever problems before is still open. Kaya pa rin habulin yan at pwede naman habulin. Pero ang kausap na nila yung father mo. Hindi ikaw. No? So that's without knowing all the details, you can do that. Of course, I'm assuming he's selling the business to you and you are indeed paying for it. So that could be the most simple way of doing it. That doesn't remove all the tax liabilities. That simply avoids the tax liability. So para bang pumasa pa sa next generation yung problema. No?
So I will start fresh.
You will start fresh. It still means na as a taxpayer, yung father mo will still have those problems. Pero hindi niya imamana sa iyo yung problema. Or hindi mo mamanahin. Whether the BIR catches up and along the way, malaman nila at they would claim certain amounts from your father's assets. That's all possible, pero yun ang simple suggestion ko. Wala namang tayong nandun pa rin yung tax liabilities. Hindi pa rin nawawala. Hindi lang siya maging masyadong complicated on your part.
Okay. So, moving to my second question. Yung second question ko is regarding pa rin dun sa business. Na pansin ko kasi na yung group of friends ng father ko, which is may talyer din. Siyempre may talyer. So lahat sila minsan nag-meet din. Naririnig ko sila nag-uusap-usap. Most of them have the same issues with us na may problem sa documentations nga ng properly documenting ng mga taxes nila. Then, ang naging problema kasi mainly sa amin is may nalakad yung father ko, then tinakbuhan siya. Then yung father ko is not really in the business side, paper side of the business. More on technical aspect siya. He can run the business, the operation, but not the paper side of the business. So, nung may pinalakad siya, nagkanda mali at tinakbuhan siya. Then doon nag-umpisa yung problema namin. Then nahinarinig ko rin to sa mga iba pang talyer. So now I would like to ask sa mga, let's say, sa mga ganon, medyo hindi naman to kasi mga big time na talyer, pero they can start a business. Pero I think kasi kung saan nagkakaproblema sila sa paghahanap ng tao na tutulong sa kanila para maglakad-lakad ng papel. So I would like to ask kung yung mga ganon klase ng tao na may matalyer, they know how to run the operation of the business, saan kaya sila nakakuha ng trustworthy na kayang maglakad ng papel for the business, paper side of the business? Kung may suggest ka.
Wala akong, personally kasi wala akong, mostly, just to explain, my line of what I do is consulting, no? So, kung ano yung strategy na gagawin, kung ano yung mas tax efficient na way na para mas makakatipid sa tax according to what the tax law allow you to do. Yun yung linya ko, no. Pero I think the best way to ask is to go to a BIR office at sila na magsasabi sa iyo. Kasi kilala naman nila yung mga common na mas sikat na account na CPA ron. At actually kung sila na ang na-recommenda, chances are they work with this guy or this girl more often at baka mas efficient pang trabaho nila when it comes to filing with the BIR. So ang suggestion ko is huwag kayong masyadong magtitipid kung sa accountant at if mas preferably maghanap kayo ng accountant na may opisina na talagang meron silang opisina. Kasi para ibig sabihin nun may staff siya. Kasi kung usually yung mga businesses na maliliit, ang hire nilang CPA, yung ano lang yung home base din, no?
Yes,
yes. Pero ang nagiging problema, hindi sila humingi ng kopya ng mga fina-file ng accountant. So wala kang records. Tapos kung may nangyari doon sa accountant, nawala na lahat ng records. So, yung accountant biglang nag-abroad or something, or kung matanda na yung accountant, no, medyo umanaw, nagkakaproblema. So I would recommend yung maliit na ikanga nila accounting office, yung may staff siya na kahit mag-turnover ang mga staff niya, ano pa naman yung records dun sa opisina niya. Usually, mas mahal ng konti yan, pero mas kampante ka na hindi yung all of a sudden hindi mo na mahagilap yung accountant nyo dahil nawala na siya. Okay? So that's I can suggest that. But actually, as to specific persons, medyo I'm hesitant to kasi wala pa akong alam na ganun ka lalim na I would really vouch for their for their credibility.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, that's
Salamat,
clear.
Harold.
Thank you.
Salamat, Harold. Thank you. And by the way, Harold, no, hindi lang namin napapublish talaga since what we're doing here is basically addressing the individual's needs, but basically Horsepower also have business compliance services because we also support startups and SMEs. So if you have, let's say, or you would like to check with Horsepower exactly how they can help you, then you can go ahead and email mo lang yung support@horsepower.ph. Tapos raise concern about how we can help you further, because basically we can. We have different partners that we trust who can really help you, or at least the friend of your fathers or within your industry na ma-set up yung business ninyo talaga in the right way at hindi kayo magkakaproblema. Okay? So there. So for the meantime, we'll be holding muna yung mga live questions para mag-giveaway tayo sa mga chat questions kasi medyo marami rin, and I know medyo gumagabi na. And by the way, guys, if you need to get in touch with Mark, of course, we will give you again his contact number shortly, or contact details. But Mark, here are some questions pa, no? I guess we'll just try 5 more, pero may ikli lang naman to.
Okay.
One question is, if may overpayment ako for my ITR and I opt for a tax credit, how do I avail when I have to pay for the next period, like yung monthly percentage or quarterly income tax?
For taxes, kung may sobra kang nabayad sa income tax, pwede naman i-roll forward yan sa susunod na taon o sa susunod na mga quarters. So, i-roll forward mo lang. Pwede rin yung maghingi ka ng refund, pero hindi recommended yun kasi mahirap kumuha ng pera sa gobyerno. You can claim it you can roll it forward sa susunod na mga taon at quarters, pero that's the best. Pero yung from income tax, may sobra kang bayad sa income tax, ililipat mo sa percentage tax. Yun, mahirap yun. It's almost impossible, lalo na sa bureaucracy at red tape. Kung may sobra kang nabayaran sa income tax, i-offset mo sa future years na income tax at saka future quarters pa.
Ayun. Tas meron pa dito. In relation to that, if I have a tax due for this quarter, can I use my tax credit for the ITR, from the ITR for it? O yun na yun mismo, in-explain mo kanina?
I assuming kung meron kang excess payment from previous years or previous quarter, nag-roll forward lang kasi yan eh. So, sa front page ng ITR or sa first few pages, pinapalista sa'yo kung ano yung mga credits mo from previous years eh. Tapos may i-deduct yan eh. So, doon pa lang, nire-remind ka na isingit mo doon yung ano. Assuming nakalagay yan sa dati mong ITR.
Okay. So another question mark coming from Daphne. Hi. Is it automatically tax exempted, or do I need to apply for tax exemption proof or certificate?
Nasa diary yan last week lang or 2-3 days ago. Yes, you need to secure actual kasi technically when you open your business and you filed with the BIR in the first place, meron ka pinapaalam mo sa kanila at na ikaw ay exempt, etc., or low, alam ko 10% for not every educational institution is exempt eh. Merong iba mas mababang tax rate lang. So hindi ko memorize kung ano yung mga classifications, pero it's not automatic. You still have to apply with the BIR.
Okay. So another question from Jezreel. Ano daw, what are considered as miscellaneous expenses? Siguro examples?
Miscellaneous kasi well, ito 'yun, no. Sa tax returns kasi ng BIR, marami na siyang suggestion kahit sa website nila. So to the point na pwede mo i-classify yan whether travel expense siya or marketing expense or pasweldo pa yan sa staff mo. You have to itemize it. And everything out of that dun sa miscellaneous na. So but if you itemize your expense, ideally i-itemize mo ng todo-todo para miscellaneous expense na amount kasi kung masyado malaki, theoretically they can ask questions. What's the nature of all those amounts? Okay?
Okay, ayun. Another question, the last two, no? I teach part-time at a private college and do online work at the same time. But the school only deducts 10% from my income. Kasi I think they classify part-time professors as consultants. And they have never given me an ITR for my earnings with them. How would I go about paying my taxes for my online work in addition to the earnings from teaching where they already deducted taxes from me?
Okay, so this teaching, they've deducted 10% from you. Yun yung, so 1,000 or 100,000, they've already taken 10,000 and gave it to the BIR. What you do is you declare yung 100,000 mo, add to that yung online work mo, and then you calculate all your taxes. Amount at the bottom, assuming may babayaran kang 25,000, doon mo na babawasan yung 10,000 na binayaran ng school on your behalf. Okay? So that's where you bring that number sa dulo na yon. Kasi ang binawas lang nilang amount or winithhold nilang 10%, it's just like a advance payment to the BIR. Wala pang calculation, the BIR doesn't know your status, they don't know how many children you have, assuming you do have dependents, no, hindi naman, no questions asked, they just take the 10%. So, malalaman natin after sa relations whether if you, in my example, 20 pang babayaran. Doon pumapasok yung 10% na binawasan, doon sa dulo na. Because that's essentially a tax that you paid, and it was paid by means of the school deducting it from you. Okay?
Okay. Ayun, may follow-up, teka. Okay, ito pala yung question. Dali lang. Last na talaga. Kasi mukhang ngayon pa lang sila nag-iinit, Mark, eh. Mukhang kailangan mo ibigay info.
That's fine. Wala pa akong curfew kasi nasa bahay tayo.
Okay. Follow-up daw. Do I have to ask the school for a document? Because I have no clue yung total na kinuha nila. Can I just add from my payslip? Ganon.
Yes, it's the form 2317 is the form, or 2316. Essentially, the school should know that. If they claim that they deducted it from you, they claim that they gave the money to the BIR, you trust them at their face value, but at the same time, they need to give you a document signed by the school official took from you.
Mark,
there's a
ito
form
ba yung
for that.
ano? Certificate
2317.
of tax withheld? Parang yan ba?
Yes. Certificate of tax withheld, yes. Dapat bigyan ka na yung form na yan. You will attach it to your ITR, and that would serve as essentially a deduction of your tax payable.
Okay. At ito, last question, Mark. Sabi dito, do you have a seminar regarding tax compliance for single and corporation at they would like to know your contact details if it's available. Probably an email, no? Share mo ulit, Mark, yung screen mo. I'll make you a presenter so that they can see your detail.
Okay. Ito, it's my email, mark.a.n.ong@gmail.com. I'm not sure what compliance
Do you
means,
have
no,
any
pero
upcoming events?
nothing upcoming, lalo na April period, no? So, wala rin. Everybody's busy doing things. Pero, a quick phone call for me to know exactly kung madaming kaya ko bang gawin. Am I the best person to do it? Wala namang charge for picking up a phone. So, wala namang problema.
Okay. So, ayun, tsaka yung topic natin, di ba, yung part 2 ng ating related to sa taxation, no? It's topics na kailangan for single proprietor and corporation, you think?
Yes. Essentially, yun yung topic natin na 2-3 weeks from na wala ka pang record sa BIR or it's been so long since you informed the BIR na freelancer ka na or self-employed ka na or may sarili ka ng business. So essentially, you're starting. No? So what do you do? How do you print your official receipts, etc., etc. So it's more about starting. Either you start from square one or you're changing your status from employed to self-employed. No? Yeah.
Ayun. So this will happen, looking at my calendar here, that will be on March 29. So yun yung and it's all about tax for beginners. So hopefully you guys can also participate on that para talagang mas maging complete yung detail, no, prior to the taxation period, yung filing deadline na April 15. So for the meantime, so far wala na namang mga ibang questions here. At if ever may mga questions, Mark, we will just forward it to you, no? Para at least you can see the questions and probably answer them at the same time.
Yes. Any of the attendees with questions, you can send it to me. I think I do respond quite fast. Kung simple questions naman, I can respond easily. Of course, if it's more than that, I can explain why it's a more complicated question. And we can talk further. Pero mostly, if it's a simple question, wala namang ano yun. I'll fire off the answer.
Okay. Well, with that, Mark, no, I'd like to thank you definitely for sharing your knowledge with us tonight, especially to our participants. Maganda ang turnaround ng ating ng attendee. So, thank you, Mark. And of course, this doesn't end here, no? May part 2 pa tayo.
Yes. Part 2. That might be more. I hope it does apply to for those who want to start. They want to just formally start the process with the BIR. For most people, kasi wala pang updates. Hindi pa talaga alam ng BIR na you're freelancing. So, if you want to let them know, you want to contribute to nation building, ayun. March 29.
Yan, March 29. So, save that in your calendar, guys, and we will definitely post again where you can register to be able to participate. So, Mark, any parting words with regards to our topic for tonight para sa ating mga participants?
Okay. Again, yung I've always said this many times. So, your business comes first. No. Parati ko sinasabi, if you're having problems with your taxes, it means you're making money. Okay? So, it's a good problem to have. So, hindi ko masisisi someone who says, I'm focused on what I'm doing, nakalimutan ko na yung ITRs, etc., etc. That's the right thing to do. At the end of the day, money coming in is most important. No? And of course, at the end of the day, maayos din yung paperworks na yan. No? So, it's still number one priority is still your business essentially. No? So, there's no need to really be caught up too much with that. No, at the end of that can sort itself out.
Okay. Again, Mark, thank you very much, and we hope to hear from you again on March 29, no, for the continuation of our taxation series. Silang matutuhan. Okay. So again, thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. And again, don't forget to visit and check your account with Horsepower. We will send also the recording of this session. So if there are some of you who weren't able to finish this, we will definitely email you the link para naman ma-review ninyo. And probably you can, have direct questions to Mark through the email that he posted on the screen right now. So once again, everyone, this is Genesis of horsepower.ph. Once again, thank you, Mark. Have a great evening, and God bless.